Ava Marquez thought she was saving a life when she found the bleeding stranger outside her hospital that cold October night. She had no idea she was about to fall in love with the city's most feared Mafia boss, a man who could kill without hesitation, yet would move heaven and earth to protect her 7-year-old son. What started as one nurse's act of mercy became a deadly game where love and violence collided, where every tender moment was shadowed by the threat of brutal revenge. Matteo Russo had lost everything once before: his wife, his daughter, his ability to trust in anything good. But when rival gangs targeted the woman who saved him, he faced an impossible choice: surrender the only family he had left, or unleash the monster he'd tried so hard to bury. Sometimes the most dangerous man in the room is the one with everything to lose. Subscribe and tell me where you're watching from, because this story of blood, betrayal, and unexpected redemption will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about love and survival. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead as Ava Marquez pulled her cardigan tighter around her shoulders. The hospital's night shift always felt colder, lonelier. She checked her watch. 2:47 a.m. Only 5 more hours until she could go home to Lucas. Her son's face flashed in her mind. 7 years old, with his father's dark eyes and her stubborn chin. This morning, his breathing had been worse. The wheezing sound that kept her awake at night, wondering if his inhaler would be enough this time. "Ava, room 12 needs fresh linens," called Sandra, the charge nurse, her voice cutting through the quiet hallway. "On it." Ava grabbed clean sheets from the supply cart. Her feet ached in the worn sneakers she couldn't afford to replace yet. Between Lucas's medical bills and rent, new shoes would have to wait another month. The emergency room doors burst open with a crash. Ava jumped, nearly dropping the linens. But no one walked through. The doors swayed back and forth in the October wind. Strange. She walked over to close them properly when she saw him. A man lay crumpled on the concrete just outside the back entrance. Blood pooled beneath his dark jacket. His face was turned away, but she could see he was breathing. Barely. Ava's nursing instincts kicked in. She dropped to her knees beside him, her hands already checking for a pulse. Strong but irregular. His shirt was soaked through with blood from what looked like a knife wound to his side. "Sir, can you hear me?" No response. His skin was pale, cold to the touch. He needed help now. The sound of sirens filled the air, growing closer. Ava looked up to see red and blue lights reflecting off the hospital windows. Police cars were pulling into the parking lot. Something twisted in her stomach. A feeling she couldn't name. "We're looking for a suspect," she heard an officer say as the team rushed past her into the ER. Male, mid-30s, dark hair, armed and dangerous. "He attacked one of our own tonight." Ava's hand stilled on the stranger's wrist. The description fit the man bleeding in front of her. But looking at him now, unconscious, helpless, she couldn't imagine him hurting anyone. She had 2 choices: call out to the officers and let them handle it, or... Before she could think it through, Ava made her decision. She grabbed the man under his arms and dragged him toward the staff entrance. He was heavier than he looked, but adrenaline gave her strength she didn't know she had. The supply closet near the back hall would have to do. She managed to get him inside just as heavy footsteps echoed down the corridor. "Ma'am, have you seen anything unusual tonight?" Officer Martinez appeared at her elbow, his hand resting on his radio. Ava's heart hammered against her ribs. "No, sir. Just the usual night shift chaos." The lie slipped out before she could stop it. Why was she protecting a stranger? A potentially dangerous one? Officer Martinez studied her face for a moment, then moved on. Ava waited until the voices faded before slipping back into the supply closet. The stranger was still unconscious. Blood had soaked through her makeshift bandage. She needed supplies, antiseptic, proper gauze, something for the pain when he woke up. If he woke up. Ava spent the next hour moving between her regular duties and sneaking medical supplies. Each time Sandra called her name, her heart jumped into her throat. Getting fired would mean losing their health insurance. Lucas needed that insurance. But she couldn't stop herself from checking on the man every few minutes, cleaning the wound, monitoring his breathing, adjusting the blanket she'd found to keep him warm. Around 4 a.m., his eyes fluttered open. Dark eyes, almost black in the dim light. They found her face and stayed there, confused but somehow grateful. "Don't move," she whispered. "You're hurt." He tried to sit up anyway and immediately collapsed back with a grunt of pain. "I said don't move." Ava pressed her hand gently against his chest. The bleeding finally stopped. "You'll start it again if you're not careful." "Where?" His voice was rough, barely audible. "Hospital supply closet. Not exactly luxury accommodations, but it's safe." His eyes sharpened. "Police?" "They left, for now." Ava checked the hallway, then closed the door again. "They're looking for someone who matches your description." Something shifted in his expression. Fear? Regret? She couldn't tell. "Why?" he asked. "Why what?" "Why help me?" Ava had been asking herself the same question all night. "I don't know." That was honest, at least. She should be terrified. Should have called security the moment she found him. Instead, she was risking her job, maybe her safety, for a man whose name she didn't even know. "You should go," he said quietly. "I'll be fine." "You'll bleed to death in an hour without proper medical care." "Not your problem." "I'm making it my problem." The words surprised her with their firmness. He studied her face in the dim light from the hallway. "You don't know what you're doing." "I'm a nurse. I know exactly what I'm doing." "That's not what I meant." Before she could ask what he did mean, footsteps echoed in the corridor again. The stranger's hand shot out and gripped her wrist, not hard enough to hurt, but firm enough to get her attention. "Whatever happens, you don't know me. Understand?" Ava nodded, though she wasn't sure why. The footsteps passed by without stopping. When the hallway was quiet again, the stranger released her wrist. "Thank you," he said simply. 2 words that somehow carried the weight of the world. Ava settled back against the wall beside him. Dawn was still hours away. Her shift didn't end until 7. She could stay until then, make sure he was stable. "What's your name?" she asked. He was quiet for so long she thought he'd fallen asleep again. Then, "Better if you don't know." "I can't keep calling you, 'Hey you,' in my head." The corner of his mouth almost smiled. Almost. "Matteo," he said finally. "Ava." "I know," she frowned. "How could you possibly know that?" But his eyes had drifted closed again. His breathing evened out into the rhythm of exhausted sleep. Ava pulled her knees up to her chest and watched him rest. In sleep, he looked younger, less dangerous. The hard lines around his eyes softened. Whatever had put him on the wrong side of the law tonight, he was still human. Still someone's son, maybe someone's father. The thought of Lucas sleeping safely in their apartment made her chest tight. Her babysitter, Mrs. Chen from next door, would make sure he took his morning medication and had breakfast before school. But Ava hated missing their morning routine. The way Lucas's face lit up when she made his favorite pancakes. How he always hugged her extra tight when she'd worked all night. "Mama has to work to take care of us," she'd explained when he asked why she was always tired. Lucas understood. At 7, he was already more mature than most kids his age. Having a sick parent, his father had died when Lucas was 4, taught children to grow up fast. A soft groan brought her attention back to Matteo. His forehead was creased in pain, even in sleep. She reached out without thinking and smoothed the worry lines with her fingertips. His skin was warm now, better than the cold clamminess from earlier. His eyes opened at her touch. "Sorry," she whispered, pulling her hand back. "You looked uncomfortable." "How long was I out?" Ava checked her watch. "About an hour." Matteo pushed himself up slowly, testing his strength. The movement pulled at his wound, and he sucked in a sharp breath. "You need proper stitches," Ava said. "I can't do that here without raising questions." "I'll manage." "You'll get an infection." Better than the alternative. What alternative? What had he done that was worse than dying from an untreated wound? Before she could ask, voices filled the hallway again. But these weren't police officers. "Check every room," a man's voice ordered. "He's here somewhere." "Boss wants him alive," another voice replied. "Boss can want whatever he likes. I want payback for Tommy." Ava's blood turned to ice. These weren't law enforcement. These were the people the police had been looking for Matteo to protect him from. Matteo's hand found hers in the darkness. His grip was steady, despite his injuries. "Listen to me carefully," he breathed against her ear. "When I leave, wait 10 minutes. Then go back to your normal routine. Act like nothing happened." "What about you?" "I'll figure something out." The voices were getting closer. Ava could hear doors opening and closing as they searched each room. "They'll find you," she whispered. "Maybe." The calm acceptance in his voice terrified her. How could he be so casual about dying? "Come with me," she said suddenly. "What?" "My shift ends in 2 hours. I'll drive you somewhere safe." "Absolutely not. You can't fight them in your condition. I won't put you in more danger." A door slammed somewhere nearby. They were running out of time. "Please," Ava said, "let me help you." Matteo looked at her for a long moment. In his eyes she saw something she recognized, the fierce need to protect someone you love. She'd seen it in her own mirror every morning when she looked at pictures of Lucas. "Why?" he asked again. This time Ava had an answer. "Because everyone deserves a chance." The doorknob to their hiding place rattled. Matteo tensed, ready to fight despite his wounds. But the door didn't open. Heavy footsteps moved past, followed by more voices. "Nothing in the West Wing." "Keep looking. He's bleeding. Can't have gone far." They waited in silence until the voices faded. Then Matteo turned to her. "If I say yes, there's no going back. You understand that?" Ava thought of Lucas, sleeping peacefully in his bed, of their quiet life, their small apartment, their careful budget that left no room for danger or excitement. She thought of the way Matteo had said thank you like it was a prayer. "I understand." "No," Matteo said quietly. "You don't. Not yet, but you will." Something in his tone sent a shiver down her spine. Not fear, exactly. Something deeper, like standing at the edge of a cliff, knowing that one step would change everything forever. "My car is in the staff parking lot," she whispered. "Blue Honda, space 14. Matteo nodded. 2 hours? 2 hours. The rest of her shift passed in a blur. Ava went through the motions, checking on patients, updating charts, helping Sandra with the morning medication rounds. But her mind was in that supply closet with a wounded stranger named Matteo. At 6:30, she saw the men in dark jackets leaving through the main entrance. They moved like predators who'd lost the scent, empty-handed. By 7 a.m., Ava was walking toward her car with hands that wouldn't stop shaking. She'd just committed to helping a man the police were hunting, a man other dangerous people wanted dead. What was wrong with her? But when she saw Matteo waiting in the passenger seat, somehow he'd made it there without being seen. Her doubts disappeared. He was hurt, Alone, hunted. And for reasons she couldn't explain, Ava Marquez wasn't going to let him face that alone. "Where to?" she asked, starting the engine. "Somewhere safe." "That's not an address." Matteo looked at her, and for the first time since she'd found him, he almost smiled. "Your choice, Ava. Just somewhere they won't look." She put the car in drive and headed toward home, toward Lucas, toward a decision that would change all their lives in ways she couldn't begin to imagine. But as they drove through the early morning streets with Matteo silent beside her and the radio playing softly, Ava felt something she hadn't experienced in years. Purpose. For the first time since her husband died, she was doing something that mattered. Something bigger than just surviving day to day. She didn't know if it was right or wrong. Didn't know if she was saving someone or destroying everything she'd worked to build. But she knew she couldn't turn back now. The stranger in the night had become her responsibility. And Ava Marquez had never walked away from her responsibilities. Not once in her life. Ava's hands trembled as she unlocked her apartment door. The familiar smell of home, lavender fabric softener, and the faint scent of Lucas's asthma medication should have been comforting. Instead, it felt like she was bringing danger into the one place that was supposed to be safe. "Stay quiet," she whispered to Matteo. "My son is sleeping." He nodded, leaning heavily against the door frame. The car ride had taken more out of him than he'd let on. Fresh blood had seeped through the bandages she'd applied at the hospital. Ava led him to the small living room and helped him onto the couch. The furniture was second-hand but clean, arranged to make the tiny space feel bigger than it was. Pictures of Lucas covered the side table. School photos, a drawing he'd made of the two of them, a snapshot from last Christmas morning. "I need to check your wound," she said, gathering clean towels from the bathroom. When she returned, Matteo was staring at Lucas's school photo. Something in his expression made her pause. "How old?" he asked quietly. 7. She knelt beside the couch and carefully lifted his shirt. "Lucas, he's all I have." The wound was worse than she'd thought, deeper. It needed real medical attention, not just field dressing in a supply closet. "This is going to hurt," she warned, cleaning around the edges with antiseptic. Matteo didn't flinch, didn't make a sound, but she felt his muscles tense under her touch. "You should be in a hospital," she said. "No hospitals." "Then you should see a real doctor. I'm just a nurse." "You're more than that." The quiet conviction in his voice made her look up. Their faces were inches apart. This close, she could see tiny scars along his jaw, old ones, healed long ago. Whatever life he lived, violence wasn't new to him. She should be afraid. Any rational person would be terrified of a wounded stranger bleeding on their couch. But when she looked at Matteo, fear wasn't what she felt. "Mama?" Ava's heart stopped. Lucas stood in the hallway, rubbing sleep from his eyes. His dark hair stuck up in every direction, and he clutched his favorite stuffed elephant to his chest. "Hey, baby," she said softly, moving to block his view of Matteo. "You're up early." Lucas's gaze moved past her to the man on their couch. Most kids would have been scared, would have run back to their room or started crying. Instead, Lucas took 3 steps forward and studied Matteo with the serious expression he wore when he was thinking hard about something. "Are you hurt?" Lucas asked. Matteo's entire demeanor changed. The hard edges softened. His voice when he spoke was gentler than Ava had heard it. "A little bit. Mama fixes hurt people. She's really good at it." "I can see that." Lucas moved closer, completely unafraid. "What's your name?" "Lucas," Ava started, but Matteo spoke first. "Matteo, that's a cool name. I'm Lucas." "Nice to meet you, Lucas." And then something happened that made Ava's chest tight. Lucas smiled, a real smile, not the polite one he gave strangers or the careful one he wore at school. When was the last time her son had smiled like that at anyone? "I have to get ready for school," Lucas announced. Then to Matteo, "Are you going to be here when I get back?" Matteo glanced at Ava. "I'm not sure." "I hope you are," Lucas said simply. Then he padded back down the hall to his room. Ava sank into the chair across from the couch, suddenly exhausted. "I'm sorry. He's usually shy around strangers." "Don't apologize. He's a good kid." "He is. The best kid." She rubbed her temples. "God, what am I doing? I don't even know who you are. For all I know, you could be a killer?" The word hung in the air between them. Ava met his eyes, searching for the truth. "Are you?" Matteo was quiet for a long moment. "Yes." The simple honesty hit her like a physical blow. She'd expected him to deny it, to make excuses, or tell her she was wrong. "How many people?" she whispered. "Does it matter?" "Yes, no, I don't know." "More than I can count, fewer than I could have." Ava wrapped her arms around herself. She should call the police, should get Lucas out of here immediately, should run as far and as fast as possible. Instead, she asked, "Why? Why what? Why did you kill them?" Another long silence. Then, "Because they would have killed people I cared about." "Your family?" Pain flashed across his features, raw and deep. "I had a family once. Had, past tense. What happened to them? They died because of who I am. Because I wasn't careful enough, wasn't strong enough to protect them." Ava's nursing instincts recognized trauma when she saw it. The way his hands clenched into fists, how his breathing changed when he talked about his family, the careful distance he kept from hope or happiness. "How long ago?" 3 years. My wife Maria. My daughter Sophia. She was 4. The same age Lucas had been when his father died. Ava knew that kind of loss. The way it hollowed you out, left you functioning, but not really living. "I'm sorry," she said. "Don't be. It was my fault. Loss is never—" "This was." His voice was final. "I chose a life that put them in danger. I chose my pride over their safety. And they paid the price." Ava heard Lucas moving around in his bedroom, getting dressed for school. In a few minutes, she'd have to walk him to the bus stop like everything was normal, like there wasn't a man on her couch who just admitted to being a killer. "Those men at the hospital," she said, "they want to kill you." "Yes." "Because you killed someone they cared about?" "Because I'm in their way." "I don't understand." Matteo shifted on the couch, wincing as the movement pulled at his wound. "I run things in this city, have for 5 years. Viktor Petrov wants to change that. Last night was his opening move." The words hit her like cold water. "Run things? You mean—" "I'm what you'd call a crime boss, yes. Mafia, organized crime, the kind of thing you saw in movies, not sitting in your living room bleeding on your couch." "Oh, God." Ava buried her face in her hands. "What have I done?" "You saved my life. I brought a criminal into my home. My son is here, Matteo, my 7-year-old son. I would never hurt him." "How do I know that?" "Because I've already lost everything that mattered to me once. I won't be responsible for destroying another family." The quiet pain in his voice stopped her protests. When she looked up, Matteo was staring at Lucas's picture again. "He looks like his father," he said. "He died when Lucas was 4. Cancer. I'm sorry. So am I, every day." They sat in silence for a moment. 2 people who'd lost everything, finding themselves in the strangest of circumstances. "Mama?" Lucas appeared again, dressed for school but struggling with his backpack zipper. "Can you help me?" Ava fixed his backpack and kissed his forehead. Mrs. Chen will walk you to the bus today, okay? I'm really tired from working all night. Okay. Lucas looked at Matteo again. Feel better. Thank you. After Lucas left with their elderly neighbor, the apartment felt too quiet. Ava made coffee with shaking hands, trying to process everything she'd learned. I should call the police, she said, not moving toward the phone. You should. Tell me why I shouldn't. Matteo was quiet for a long time. Then, because Victor won't stop with me. He'll tie up loose ends. Anyone who helped me, anyone who can identify his men. Are you threatening me? I'm warning you. The moment you helped me, you became part of this. Calling the police won't change that. So what do I do? Let me protect you. By doing what? What I do best. The implications of that made her stomach turn. More killing. If necessary. There has to be another way. There is. You and Lucas disappear. New names, new city. I can arrange it. Leave everything, our life here, better than being dead. Ava sank into her chair. Two impossible choices. Run away from everything they'd built or trust a man who solved problems with violence. How do I know you won't hurt us? You don't. That's not reassuring. I'm not trying to reassure you. I'm trying to be honest. Why? Because you deserve that much. The phone rang, making them both jump. Ava looked at the caller ID and frowned. The hospital. She never got calls during the day unless... Hello? Ava, it's Sandra. Are you okay? I'm fine. Why? Some men came by this morning asking about you, wanted to know your schedule, where you lived. Security escorted them out, but Sandra's voice was worried. They didn't look like family members. Ava's blood turned cold. What did they look like? Big guys in dark jackets. One had a scar across his forehead. They said they were friends of yours, but something felt off. The phone slipped in Ava's sweaty palm. Across the room, Matteo was watching her with an expression that said he already knew what the call was about. Thanks for letting me know, she managed. Ava, if you're in some kind of trouble, I'm not. I'll see you tonight. She hung up and looked at Matteo. They found me. Faster than I expected. What does that mean? It means we're out of time. As if to prove his point, the sound of car doors slamming echoed from the parking lot outside. Ava moved to the window and peered through the curtains. 3 men in dark clothing were walking toward her building. The one in front had a scar across his forehead. They're here, she whispered. Matteo was already moving, despite his injuries. Back exit? Fire escape off the bedroom. Get whatever you can't leave behind. We have 2 minutes. I can't just leave. This is our home. This is a death trap. A knock on the door made them both freeze. Then a voice called out, Mrs. Marquez, building maintenance. Need to check your water pressure. Ava looked at Matteo. He shook his head. She's at work, Ava called back, disguising her voice. Manager said she'd be home. The doorknob rattled. They were testing the lock. Matteo grabbed her hand. Now. They slipped into the bedroom. Ava threw some clothes in a bag while Matteo opened the window that led to the fire escape. The metal stairs were old and rusty, but they held their weight. As they climbed down, Ava heard her front door splinter. Heavy footsteps filled her apartment. Check every room, someone ordered. They made it to the alley behind the building. Ava's car was in the front parking lot, too dangerous to reach now. This way, Matteo said, leading her toward the street. Where are we going? Somewhere safe. You keep saying that, but nowhere feels safe anymore. Matteo stopped walking and turned to face her. Blood was seeping through his shirt again, and his face was pale with pain and exhaustion. I know this is terrifying. I know you have no reason to trust me. but I swear on my daughter's grave that I will protect you and Lucas with my life." The fierce sincerity in his voice made something shift in her chest. This wasn't just about survival anymore. This was about a man who'd lost everything trying to save what little good he'd found in the world. "Okay," she said quietly. "Okay? I trust you." Matteo stared at her for a moment. Then, so quietly she almost missed it, "Thank you." They walked 3 blocks to a small diner where Matteo used the payphone while Ava sat in a corner booth, watching the door. Every person who walked in could be a threat. Every sound could be danger approaching. When had her life become something out of a movie? Matteo returned to the table. "Someone's coming to get us." "Who?" "My right hand. Enzo. You can trust him." "Like I can trust you?" "Like you can trust me." A black sedan pulled up outside 20 minutes later. The driver was a tall man with graying temples and sharp eyes that missed nothing. He looked at Ava through the diner window and frowned. "He doesn't like me," she observed. "He doesn't like complications." "And I'm a complication." "You're the best complication I've ever had." Something warm unfurled in Ava's chest. Despite everything, the danger, the fear, the impossibility of their situation, Matteo's words felt like truth. They left the diner together, walking toward an uncertain future. Behind them, their old lives lay in ruins. Ahead waited questions that had no easy answers. But for the first time since her husband died, Ava wasn't facing the unknown alone, even if her companion was the most dangerous man she'd ever met. The car ride to Matteo's estate felt like traveling to another world. Enzo drove in silence while Matteo made quiet phone calls, his voice low and urgent. Ava pressed her face to the window, watching familiar city streets give way to tree-lined roads and gated communities. "Lucas will be getting out of school soon," she said during a break in Matteo's conversations. "Already handled," he replied. "Enzo's men will pick him up." "Strange men picking up my son. He'll be terrified." Matteo touched her arm gently. "Mrs. Chen will be with them. I called her first." Ava stared at him. In the chaos of running for their lives, he'd thought about Lucas's comfort, about making sure a familiar face was there to ease his fear. "Thank you," she whispered. The estate appeared behind tall iron gates that opened automatically as they approached. The main house was beautiful but intimidating. 3 stories of stone and glass surrounded by perfect gardens. Everything about it screamed money and power and danger. Armed men stood at various points around the property, trying to look casual but fooling no one. This wasn't just a home. It was a fortress. "I can't live like this," Ava said as they pulled up to the front door. "It's temporary," Matteo assured her. "How temporary?" "Until it's safe." "When will that be?" Matteo's silence was answer enough. The inside of the house was even more overwhelming than the outside. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, artwork that probably cost more than Ava made in 5 years. It was beautiful and cold at the same time. "Mr. Russo?" An elderly woman appeared, wiping flour-dusted hands on her apron. "You're hurt." "I'll be fine, Mrs. Donatelli. We have guests." The woman, the housekeeper, Ava guessed, studied her with kind but curious eyes. "The lady looks ready to faint. And where's the boy?" "Coming soon." "Can you prepare the blue suite?" "Of course." Mrs. Donatelli's gaze softened when she looked at Ava. "You come with me, dear. Let's get you settled while the men handle their business." Ava followed her upstairs, grateful to get away from all the watching eyes. The blue suite was bigger than her entire apartment, with a sitting area, massive bedroom, and bathroom that looked like something from a magazine. "This is too much," she said. "Mr. Russo's orders," Mrs. Donatelli replied, pulling fresh towels from a linen closet. He said you and the boy are to have whatever you need. Mrs. Donatelli, can I ask you something? Call me Rosa. And yes, dear. Is Matteo a good man? Rosa was quiet for a moment, arranging the towels with careful precision. He's a man who's lost everything that mattered to him. That changes a person. For better or worse. Depends on what he finds to fill the empty spaces. Before Ava could ask what that meant, car doors slammed outside. She rushed to the window and saw Lucas climbing out of a black SUV, Mrs. Chen's familiar form beside him. Relief flooded through her. Her son was safe. But as she watched Lucas look up at the enormous house, taking in the armed guards and unfamiliar surroundings, her heart ached. How could she explain this to a 7-year-old? Lucas! She ran downstairs and scooped him into her arms, breathing in his familiar scent of children's shampoo and playground dust. Mama, this house is huge, he said, his voice filled with wonder instead of fear. Are we really staying here? For a little while. Cool. Is Matteo here? I want to make sure he's okay. Before Ava could answer, Matteo appeared in the doorway. He'd changed into clean clothes and someone had properly bandaged his wound, but he still looked pale and tired. Hey, Lucas. Hi, are you feeling better? Much better, thanks to your mom. Lucas beamed with pride. She's the best nurse in the whole world. I believe it. Mrs. Chen stepped forward, wringing her hands nervously. Ava, dear, those men said I should pack some things for Lucas. I brought his medications and his elephant. Thank you so much, Mrs. Chen. I'm sorry you got dragged into this. Don't you worry about me. Just take care of that boy. After Mrs. Chen left, Rosa appeared with milk and cookies for Lucas. Growing boys need proper snacks, she declared, leading him toward the kitchen. Alone with Matteo, Ava felt the weight of their situation settling over her again. He seems okay, Matteo observed, for now. Kids are resilient, but this is a lot to process. I know. I'm sorry. Don't apologize. Just help me figure out how to make this work. Over the next few days, they developed a strange routine. Ava spent mornings with Lucas, helping him adjust to their temporary home. The house had a library that fascinated him, and Rosa spoiled him with homemade cookies and stories about Italy. Afternoons were for practical matters, setting up remote schooling so Lucas wouldn't fall behind, coordinating with the hospital about her extended absence, trying to maintain some sense of normalcy in their upended lives. Evenings were the hardest. After Lucas went to bed, the house felt too quiet, too big. Ava would find herself wandering the halls, feeling lost and out of place. One night she discovered Matteo sitting by the library fireplace, staring into the flames. He looked exhausted and lonely. Can't sleep either? She asked. Sleep's overrated. She sat in the chair across from him. Want to talk about it? About what? Whatever's keeping you up. Matteo was quiet for a long time. Then, I used to read to Sophia every night. Same chair, same books. She had this laugh when I did the funny voices. He trailed off, lost in memory. Tell me about her, Ava said gently. She looked like her mother. Dark curls, big brown eyes, always asking questions. His voice grew softer. Why is the sky blue? Where do stars come from? Why can't we have ice cream for breakfast? What did you tell her about ice cream? That life's too short not to have dessert first sometimes. Ava smiled. Sounds like good parenting advice. Maria didn't think so. She said I spoiled Sophia rotten. Did you? Absolutely. For a moment, genuine warmth flickered in his eyes. Every chance I got. I understand that. Lucas has me wrapped around his little finger. Good. Kids should know they're loved without question. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the fire crackle. For the first time since arriving at the estate, Ava felt some of her tension ease. "Can I ask you something?" she said. "Anything." "Why didn't you just leave the city? After your family died, why stay in a life that caused you so much pain?" Matteo considered the question carefully. "Because running felt like abandoning them, like saying their deaths didn't matter. And now? Now I'm not sure revenge is worth what it costs." Before Ava could respond, rapid footsteps echoed in the hallway. Enzo appeared, his expression grim. "We have a problem." Matteo stood immediately. "What kind of problem?" "Victor's men grabbed one of our guys, Tony Marchetti. They want to trade." "For what?" Enzo's eyes flicked to Ava, the woman and the boy. Ice formed in Ava's stomach. "They know we're here?" "They know you're somewhere," Enzo said. "They're betting Matteo won't risk innocent lives." "They're right," Matteo said immediately. "Boss!" "They're right," Matteo repeated firmly. "Set up the meeting." "Matteo, no." Ava stood up. "You can't trade your life for ours." "Watch me." "What about everything you said about protecting us?" "This is me protecting you." "By getting yourself killed?" Enzo cleared his throat. "There might be another way." Both Ava and Matteo turned to him. "Victor wants to make a statement, show the city he's in control, but he also wants you alive to suffer first." "Your point?" "He'll try to take the exchange somewhere public, somewhere with witnesses. We can use that." "Too risky." Matteo shook his head. "Everything's risky now," Enzo replied, "but this gives us options." Later that night, after the men had left to make their plans, Ava lay awake staring at the ceiling. Down the hall, she could hear Lucas breathing peacefully in his sleep. How had her quiet life become this nightmare? She got up and walked to Matteo's room. The door was ajar, and she could see him sitting on the edge of his bed, head in his hands. "Matteo?" He looked up, surprised to see her. "I couldn't sleep," she said. "Neither could I." She stepped into the room, closing the door behind her. "Tell me the truth. What are the chances we all survive this?" "I don't know." "Guess." "Ava, please. I need to know what we're facing." Matteo met her eyes. "Honestly? If Victor gets what he wants, you and Lucas will be safe. He has no reason to hurt you. And you? I'll be dead within a week." The blunt honesty hit her like a physical blow. "There has to be another way. I've been in this life for 15 years. There's always only one way out." "That's not true." "Isn't it?" Ava moved closer. "What if we all left? Tonight. Just disappeared?" "They'd find us eventually." "What if they didn't?" "Ava, what if we started over somewhere else? All three of us?" The suggestion hung in the air between them. Matteo stared at her like she'd spoken in a foreign language. "You don't know what you're saying." "I know exactly what I'm saying. I'm a killer, Ava, a criminal. I'm not someone you build a life with." "You're someone who lost everything and is trying to protect what little good he's found. That's not the same thing." "Yes, it is." "No." She sat beside him on the bed, close enough to feel the warmth of his body. "It's not." For a moment, neither of them spoke. The air felt charged, full of possibilities neither had dared to consider. "Why?" Matteo asked quietly. "Why what?" "Why would you want that? A life with someone like me?" Ava thought about Lucas's smile when he saw Matteo each morning, about the gentle way Matteo had bandaged her scraped knee yesterday when she'd tripped in the garden, about how safe she felt in this house full of dangerous men. "Because I've been surviving for 3 years," she said finally, "just surviving day after day. But with you, I feel like I'm living again." Matteo's hand found hers, fingers intertwining. "You don't know what you'd be giving up." "What would I be giving up? My job at the hospital? My tiny apartment? My careful, quiet life where nothing unexpected ever happened?" Your safety, your peace of mind. I haven't felt safe or peaceful since David died, until now. Ava. She turned to face him fully. I'm not saying I have all the answers. I'm not saying it would be easy. But Lucas adores you. And you. I'm falling in love with you. The words hung between them like a bridge neither had expected to cross. Matteo stared at her with an expression she couldn't read. You can't, he said finally. Too late. I'm not good for you. You're exactly what we need. I don't know how to be that. I don't know how to be anything other than what I am. Then learn. We'll figure it out together. Matteo lifted their joined hands and pressed them against his chest. She could feel his heartbeat, strong and steady. If I do this, he said quietly, if we try to build something together, I won't go back. I won't be the man I was before. I wouldn't want you to, even if it means giving up the power, the control, everything that's defined me for 15 years. Especially then. Matteo leaned forward until their foreheads touched. You're asking me to choose hope over certainty. I'm asking you to choose love over fear. I'm terrified, he whispered. Me too. What if I can't protect you? What if you can? For the first time since she'd met him, Matteo smiled, really smiled. It transformed his entire face, erasing years of hardness and pain. You're impossible, he said. You're worth it, she replied. And then he kissed her. It was gentle at first, tentative, like he was afraid she might disappear. But when she kissed him back, pouring all her hope and fear and desperate love into the connection between them, something shifted. This wasn't just about survival anymore. This was about building something beautiful from the wreckage of their broken lives. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Matteo rested his forehead against hers again. Tomorrow we end this, he said. One way or another. Together? Together. Outside, storm clouds gathered on the horizon, but inside that room in each other's arms, Ava and Matteo found something they'd both thought was lost forever. Hope. The morning of the exchange dawned gray and cold. Ava woke to find Matteo already gone from bed, the space beside her still warm but empty. Through the window, she could see him in the garden with Lucas, showing her son how to feed the ornamental fish in the pond. Lucas was chattering excitedly, his hands gesturing as he told some elaborate story. Matteo listened with the same focused attention he gave his business meetings, nodding seriously at whatever 7-year-old wisdom was being shared. The sight made her heart ache. In another world, this could have been their normal morning routine, a family starting their day together, safe and happy. But today wasn't that world. Mama! Lucas burst through the patio doors, his cheeks flushed with excitement. Matteo showed me how the fish know which food is theirs. They're really smart. That's wonderful, sweetheart. Ava pulled him close, breathing in his familiar scent. How many more mornings like this would they have? Matteo appeared behind Lucas, fully dressed and wearing the careful mask she recognized from their first meeting. The vulnerable man who'd held her last night was gone, replaced by someone harder, someone ready for war. We need to talk, he said quietly. Rosa appeared as if summoned. Come, Lucas, help me make breakfast. I'll teach you how to make proper Italian pancakes. Cool. Can I crack the eggs? If you're very careful. After they disappeared into the kitchen, Matteo sat across from Ava at the small table in their suite. The exchange is set for 2:00, Pier 17 at the harbor. Public, like Enzo said. Victor wants witnesses, wants everyone to see him win. Ava studied his face. But you have a plan. We have a plan. Enzo's positioned men around the pier. The moment Victor shows himself, we take him out. And if something goes wrong? Matteo reached across the table and took her hands. "Promise me something." "What?" "If this goes bad, you take Lucas and you run. Enzo has new identities prepared, money, everything you need to disappear." "Matteo, promise me, Ava." She looked into his eyes and saw the same desperate love she felt. "Only if you promise to come back to us." "I promise I'll try." "That's not good enough." "It's all I can give you." An hour before they were supposed to leave, Lucas found them packing supplies in Matteo's office. "Are we going somewhere?" he asked. Ava's throat closed up. How do you explain to a child that the man he'd grown to love might die today? Matteo knelt down to Lucas's level. "We need to take care of some business. You're going to stay here with Rosa, okay?" "Can I come with you?" "Not today, buddy." Lucas's face fell. At 7, he was smart enough to sense when adults were scared, even if he didn't understand why. "Will you come back?" he asked quietly. Matteo glanced at Ava, then back at Lucas. "I'm going to try my hardest." That's what Daddy said before he went to the hospital the last time. The words hit like a punch to the gut. Ava saw Matteo's jaw tighten with determination. "I'm not your daddy, Lucas. But I promise you this. I will fight every day to come home to you and your mom." "Every day?" "Every single day." Lucas studied his face with the serious expression he wore when making important decisions. Then he stepped forward and wrapped his arms around Matteo's neck. "I love you," he whispered. Matteo closed his eyes, holding Lucas tight. "I love you too, kid. So much." When they pulled apart, Matteo's voice was rough. "You take care of your mom while I'm gone, okay? She's going to be scared." "I will." "And Lucas? No matter what happens today, remember that you and your mom are the best thing that ever happened to me." The ride to the pier was silent except for the low murmur of Enzo giving final instructions over the radio. Ava sat beside Matteo in the back seat, their hands clasped tightly together. "I'm scared," she admitted. "Good. Fear keeps you alive." "Not for me. For you." Matteo lifted their joined hands and kissed her knuckles. "Whatever happens today, these past few weeks with you and Lucas, they gave me something I thought I'd lost forever." "What?" "A reason to live instead of just surviving." The harbor was busy with afternoon tourists and workers, normal people living normal lives, unaware they were about to witness something that would change everything. Pier 17 stretched out over the dark water, empty except for a few seagulls and the occasional fisherman. Perfect for an exchange that needed witnesses but also room to maneuver. "Victor's here," Enzo reported through the earpiece. 3 cars, maybe 8 men. "Positions? Alpha team's got the north approach, Beta's on the south. You sure about this, boss?" Matteo squeezed Ava's hand once more, then released it. "It's time." They walked onto the pier together, their footsteps echoing on the wooden planks. At the far end, Victor Petrov waited with his men spread out behind him. He was younger than Ava had expected, maybe 40, with cold blue eyes and the kind of smile that never reached them. Tony Marchetti knelt beside him, hands bound and a gun pressed to his head. "Matteo Russo," Victor called out as they approached. "You look well for a dead man." "Victor, you look exactly like what you are." "And what's that?" "A coward who hides behind other people's pain." Victor's smile faltered. "Careful, Matteo. I hold all the cards today." "Do you?" "I have your man. You have my prizes." Victor's gaze moved to Ava, and she fought the urge to step behind Matteo. "The nurse who saved your life. Tell me, was she worth destroying everything you built?" "She was worth more than that." "How touching. Unfortunately, your romantic story ends today." Victor raised his hand, clearly about to signal his men. But Matteo spoke first. Before you do something you'll regret, you should know that every move you've made for the past week has been watched, every phone call recorded, every transaction traced. You're bluffing? Am I? Matteo pulled out his phone and played an audio recording. Victor's voice filled the air. Kill them both. Make it messy. I want Russo to suffer before he dies. The blood drained from Victor's face. FBI's been very interested in your expansion plans. Matteo continued conversationally. Turns out they don't appreciate it when someone tries to muscle in on their informants. What informants? Me? Victor. The words hit like a bomb. Victor's men shifted nervously, suddenly looking around for threats they couldn't see. You're lying. 3 years ago, after my family was murdered, I made a choice. I could spend my life seeking revenge, or I could make sure no other family suffered the way mine did. Matteo's voice grew stronger. I've been feeding information to the feds for 2 years. Every major player, every significant operation, all of it. You son of a... The difference between us, Victor, is that I learned something from losing everything. You never did. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. Victor's eyes went wide with panic. This is a setup. This is justice. Federal agents appeared from everywhere, behind shipping containers, inside tourist stands, even among the fishermen. Victor and his men were surrounded before they realized what was happening. But Victor wasn't going down quietly. In desperation, he pulled his own gun and aimed it directly at Ava. Maybe I can't win, but I can make sure you lose too. The shot rang out across the harbor. But it wasn't Victor who fired. Matteo had moved faster than thought possible, pulling Ava behind him as Enzo's bullet found its mark. Victor crumpled to the pier, his weapon skittering across the wooden planks. "Boss!" Tony Marchetti called out as federal agents cut his restraints. "You okay?" "We're fine, Tony." Agent Sarah Chen, no relation to their neighbor, approached with her badge displayed. "Mr. Russo, we'll need you to come with us for debriefing." "How long?" "Few hours. Maybe overnight." Matteo turned to Ava, cupping her face in his hands. "Are you hurt?" "No. Are you?" "No." He kissed her forehead. "It's over, Ava. It's really over." "What happens now?" "Now we go home." "The estate? Wherever you want home to be." The debriefing took longer than expected. Ava spent the night in a safe house, calling Rosa every hour to check on Lucas. By morning she was exhausted and worried sick. But when the door opened and Matteo walked in, all her fears dissolved. "Hey," he said softly. "Hey, yourself." She flew into his arms, holding him tight. "Is it really finished?" "Victor's dead. His organization is scattered. The FBI has everything they need to roll up the rest." "And you?" "Free and clear. My cooperation bought me immunity for past crimes and protection for the future." "What does that mean for us?" "It means we can be whoever we want to be now." They drove back to the estate in comfortable silence, both lost in thought about what came next. The future that had seemed impossible yesterday was suddenly wide open. Lucas met them at the front door, launching himself into Matteo's arms. "You came back." "I promised I would." "Are the bad guys gone?" "Forever." That evening, as they sat around the dinner table like a real family, Lucas asked the question Ava had been wondering about too. "So what happens now?" Matteo looked at Ava, silently asking permission to answer. "Well," he said carefully, "I was thinking maybe we could find a house somewhere, all 3 of us together, if your mom thinks that's okay." Lucas's face lit up. "Really? Like a real family?" "Like a real family." "Can we get a dog?" "Lucas!" Ava laughed. "We'll see," Matteo said diplomatically. Months later, Ava woke up to the sound of laughter from the kitchen. She found Lucas and Matteo making pancakes. Badly, from the looks of the flour explosion covering every surface. "What happened in here?" she asked, surveying the damage. "We're making breakfast," Lucas announced proudly. "Matteo said we should surprise you." Mission accomplished. Their new house was smaller than the estate, but perfect for them. 3 bedrooms, a big backyard, and neighbors who thought Matteo was a successful businessman who'd retired early, which, in a way, was true. "Mama, can you help us? We can't figure out how to flip them without breaking them." "That's because you're using too much batter," she said, stepping between them to take over the pan. Matteo's arms came around her waist from behind, and she leaned into his warmth. "Good morning," he murmured against her hair. "Good morning." Lucas chattered away about his plans for the day, school, then soccer practice, then helping Matteo build the tree house they'd been working on for weeks. Their life was beautifully ordinary now. School events and grocery shopping and lazy Sunday mornings. Everything Ava had dreamed about during those long night shifts when she thought their small life was all they'd ever have. "I have something to tell you both," Matteo said as they sat down to eat. Lucas looked up with syrup on his chin. "What?" Matteo pulled out an envelope from his jacket pocket. "These came yesterday." "What are they?" Ava asked. "Adoption papers. If you both want it, Lucas can officially be my son." The silence that followed was heavy with emotion. Lucas looked at the papers with wide eyes, then at Matteo. "You want to adopt me?" "More than anything in the world." "That means you'd be my real dad?" "I'd be honored to be your real dad." Lucas threw himself across the table into Matteo's arms. "Yes, yes, yes, yes." Through tears, Ava watched the 2 most important people in her life hold each other tight. The wounded man she'd saved that night in the hospital was gone, replaced by someone who'd learned to hope again. "What about you?" Matteo asked, looking at her over Lucas's head. "Are you okay with this?" "Are you kidding? I've been waiting for you to ask." Later that night, after Lucas had finally fallen asleep from excitement, Ava and Matteo sat on their back porch watching the stars. "Any regrets?" she asked. "About what?" "Giving up your old life. The power, the control, all of it." Matteo was quiet for a moment, considering. "You know what I had before? Fear. Every day, wondering who would try to hurt me or take what was mine. That's not power, Ava. That's prison. And now? Now I wake up every morning next to the woman I love, help my son with homework, and worry about normal things like whether we need more milk." He turned to look at her. "That's not giving up power. That's finding out what real strength looks like." "I love you," she said simply. "I love you too." As they sat together in the peaceful darkness, Ava thought about the night that had changed everything. How she'd made the split-second decision to help a stranger, never knowing it would lead to this. Sometimes the biggest risks brought the greatest rewards. Sometimes the people who seemed most dangerous turned out to be the ones who could save you. And sometimes, when you thought your story was over, life surprised you with a brand new beginning. In the distance, she could hear Lucas talking in his sleep, probably dreaming about their upcoming family vacation. Tomorrow, Matteo would teach him how to throw a curveball. Next week, they'd all go shopping for school clothes together. Simple things. Normal things. Beautiful things. The wounded stranger she'd sheltered that night was gone forever. In his place was the man she'd fallen in love with. Someone who'd learned that true strength came from protecting the people you loved, not from being feared by the people you controlled. And Lucas, her quiet boy who'd been so afraid to trust again, now called Matteo Papa without hesitation. They'd all found something they thought they'd lost. They'd found home. "Throw it higher, Papa," Lucas called from his position at home plate. Matteo wound up dramatically, making Lucas giggle before lobbing a gentle pitch across their backyard. Their son, officially their son as of 3 months ago, swung with everything he had and connected solidly. Run! Ava cheered from her lawn chair, where she sat watching their Saturday morning baseball practice. Lucas rounded the imaginary bases, sliding into home just as their new golden retriever puppy, named Courage, Lucas's idea, bounded over to join the celebration. Safe, Matteo called, sweeping Lucas up in a victory hug. Did you see that, Mama? I hit it perfect. I saw. You're getting so good. As they walked back toward the house, Matteo caught her hand. Happy? Ava looked around at their life, their son laughing as he chased the puppy, their home filled with the sounds of family, their future stretching out bright and certain ahead of them. Perfectly happy, she said, and meant every word.